All right, so today we're diving into something pretty interesting, especially if you've been, trying to break into AI research, which can feel like, well,
Like a very exclusive club.
yeah, like you need a secret handshake and a supercomputer just to get started.
Exactly. And that's exactly what makes this report we're looking at so interesting.
The National AI Research Resource, right?
Yeah, the NAIRR. And it's not just some vague idea the government is throwing around. This report is like their playbook for making AI research more accessible.
Okay, so before we get into the how, let's talk about the why. Because honestly, why should the average person care about who gets to do AI research?
Well, think about it this way right now. A lot of the cutting edge AI development is happening at these big tech companies, right?
Right, with resources most of us can only dream of.
Exactly. And while those companies are doing some amazing things, it also means that the direction of AI research, what gets prioritized, what problems get solved, it's all heavily influenced by, well,
By their bottom line.
yeah, their priorities, their values.
Hmm.
Now imagine if we could democratize that process. If we could empower researchers from all walks of life with all sorts of backgrounds and perspectives to contribute to AI development.
It would change the game completely.
Absolutely. We'd see a wider range of problems being tackled, more creative solutions being explored, and potentially a more inclusive and equitable AI landscape overall.
Because right now, it's like we're only hearing from a small sliver of voices in the AI world.
Exactly. And that's what this NAIR is trying to address. It's about leveling the playing field, so to speak, and giving more people a seat at the table.
I'm all for that. So, how does it actually work? What is this NAIRR like in practice?
Well, imagine a national network of resources specifically designed for AI research. We're talking supercomputers, vast data sets.
The kind of stuff most researchers could only dream of getting their hands on.
Exactly. And it's not just about providing the hardware. The NAIR will also offer access to sophisticated software tools, testing environments, and even educational resources.
So it's like a one-stop shop for everything an AI researcher could need.
Essentially, yes. And the really cool part is that it's being designed with a collaborative open source approach in mind.
What does that mean exactly? Open source AI research.
It means that researchers will be encouraged to show their work, their code, their findings with the wider community. They'll
Yeah.
be building upon each other's progress rather than working in silos.
I love that idea. It's like the Wikipedia of AI research.
Exactly. And this kind of collaborative approach can really accelerate the pace of innovation, leading to breakthroughs that might not have been possible otherwise.
It's exciting to think about all the potential collaborations and breakthroughs that could come out of this.
Absolutely. And it's not just about the big, flashy breakthroughs either. The NAIR will also provide a platform for researchers to tackle smaller scale projects, to experiment, to push the boundaries of what's possible.
It sounds like they're really trying to be thoughtful about addressing the different levels of access that are needed in the AI world.
Yeah, they have this two-tier system outlined in the report, NAIR Open and NAIR Secure.
Okay, so tell me more about that. What's the difference between the two?
Well, as you might guess, NAIR Open will house all the resources that are available to, well, pretty much anyone.
So open source software, publicly available data sets, that kind of thing.
Exactly. It's about making those resources as widely accessible as possible to encourage collaboration and innovation.
And NAIR secure. That sounds a bit more, well, exclusive.
Not exclusive, but definitely more controlled. Think about research involving sensitive data like medical records or financial information.
Ah, I see. You can't just have that stuff out in the open.
Exactly. So NAIR Secure will provide a more secure and controlled environment for researchers working with that kind of data.
So it's still about providing access, but with the necessary safeguards in place.
Precisely. They're trying to strike that delicate balance between openness and responsibility.
That makes sense. And it sounds like they're really committed to making this a truly national resource, right? The report talks about this phased rollout, starting with a pilot program that leverages existing infrastructure.
Yeah, so they're not, sitting around waiting for the perfect system to just appear.
More like a soft launch, right? Get things moving while the bigger picture comes together.
Right, exactly. So they've got this four-phase approach, and phase one is all about, dipping their toes in the water with this pilot program.
Makes sense. Got to work out the kinks before you go big.
Exactly. And then phase two is where they really start building out the what they call the operating entity.
Operating entity, so that's like the team behind the curtain making sure everything actually runs smoothly.
Yeah, think of them like the conductors of this whole orchestra.
Making sure all the instruments are in tune and playing together.
Exactly. And it's a huge job. They're responsible for everything from setting up the actual infrastructure, like the servers and stuff.
Right, the nuts and bolts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
To figuring out how people are going to access the NAIRR, making sure it's fair and equitable, and then, fostering this whole research community.
So they're like the architects, the construction crew, and the event planners all rolled into one.
Haha, yeah. Something like that.
Sounds like they've got their work cut out for them.
Yeah.
Okay, so what happens in phase 3?
Phase 3 is when things get really interesting. That's when they're aiming to hit what they call initial operational capability, or IOC.
So that's like the NAIRR's grand opening.
Exactly. They want to have a fully functional user portal, at least one supercomputer dedicated to AI research, the works.
Supercomputers. Okay, now we're talking. That's some serious horsepower.
Oh, yeah. This is where things get really exciting research-wise. And to make sure it's a level playing field, they're also going to be really careful about how they manage access to those resources.
Makes sense. You don't want a few big players hogging up all the supercomputing time.
Exactly. So they're even thinking about having a system where if you need more resources than your fair share, you can, rent additional computing power or something.
Interesting. So it's about providing a baseline of access,
Yeah.
but also allowing for flexibility when needed.
Right, exactly. Okay, so then phase 4, that's when everything's up and running at full capacity.
So what happens then? Do they just, kick back and relax?
Haha, I wish. No, phase 4 is all about continuous improvement, making sure the NR stays at the cutting edge of AI research.
So it's not just about building it, it's about making sure it stays relevant and useful over time.
Exactly. They'll constantly be evaluating how things are working, identifying any gaps or areas for improvement, adding new resources, always evolving.
That's great because AI research is such a fast-moving field. What's cutting edge today might be outdated tomorrow.
Exactly. And they're not just focused on the technology itself. They also talk a lot about the importance of responsible AI development, making sure things like environmental impact and ethical considerations are taken into account.
Right, because it's not just about advancing AI for the sake of advancing AI, it's about doing it in a way that benefits everyone.
Exactly. They're really encouraging research into how AI can be used to tackle big problems like climate change, for example.
Okay, so they're thinking about the big picture, the long-term implications of this technology.
Absolutely. And for people who really like to geek out on the technical details, there's a whole section of the report that outlines the specific requirements for the infrastructure.
So we're talking hardware, software, the whole 9 yards.
Oh yeah, they go into detail about the types of computing clusters they'll need, the data storage systems, the network capabilities.
I can only imagine the amount of data we're talking about here. Probably petabytes upon petabytes.
Probably more. And it's not just about storing the data, it's about making it accessible and usable for researchers. They talk about the importance of data management, curation, making sure everything is well organized and documented.
Right, because what good is a mountain of data if you can't find anything in it?
Exactly. They want to make sure the data is what they call fair, findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable.
I love that. Fair data. It's like music to my ears.
And they also emphasize the importance of data sharing and collaboration. They want researchers to be able to share their data sets with each other to build on each other's work.
So it's not just about hoarding data. It's about creating this shared pool of knowledge that everyone can benefit from.
Exactly. Okay, so now for the big question. With all this talk about open access and data sharing, how do they make sure people's privacy isn't compromised?
Right, because there's a lot of sensitive information out there. Medical records, financial data, you name it.
Exactly. And the report actually addresses that head on.
Yeah.
They're really emphasizing the importance of data governance, making sure they have really solid policies and security measures in place.
So researchers can access the data they need, but without putting anyone's privacy at risk.
Exactly. They're using things like de-identification techniques to remove any personally identifiable information from the data.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like they're scrubbing the data clean before they make it available.
In a way, yeah. They're also implementing really strict access controls, so only authorized users can access certain data sets.
Okay, so it's not just a free-for-all. They're being very deliberate about who gets to see what.
Absolutely. And of course, they'll be using state-of-the-art security systems to protect the data from any unauthorized access.
So they're taking this really seriously, which is good to hear. Because as much as we want to promote open access, we also don't want to be careless with people's information.
Exactly. They're striking that balance between, being open and being responsible.
Which is super important. Okay, so we've talked about the hardware, the software, the data, the security, but there's one more piece of the puzzle, right? training.
Oh, absolutely. They actually talk a lot about the importance of training and workforce development in the report.
Because what good is all this fancy technology if nobody knows how to use it?
Exactly. They want to make sure that there's a pipeline of skilled AI professionals who are ready to take advantage of everything the NAIRR has to offer.
So are they talking about like offering courses and workshops and things like that?
Yeah, they envision a whole range of training programs from introductory courses on AI fundamentals to really specialized workshops on cutting edge techniques.
So whether you're just starting out in AI or you're a seasoned researcher, there's something for you.
Exactly. And they want to make these training programs accessible to a wide range of people, regardless of their background or their current skill level.
I love that. It's about creating opportunities for everyone to learn and grow in this field.
Absolutely. And it ties in really well with their overall goal of broadening participation in AI research.
Because if we want to solve the big problems facing our world, we need a diverse range of perspectives and approaches.
Exactly. And that starts with making sure everyone has the opportunity to get involved in AI research, regardless of their background or where they come from.
So we've covered a ton of ground on this deep dive, haven't we? From the nuts and bolts of this narrower thing to the big picture of like, who gets to shape the future of AI?
But it's not just about, geeking out on the tech specs either. It's about what this whole thing means for, well,
For everyone, really.
exactly. Like, this report isn't just some boring government document. It's practically an invitation. It's saying, hey, we're building this amazing thing, but...
But we need you to help us make it great.
Exactly. And I think that's what makes this so exciting. It's not just about the government throwing money at a problem.
It's about creating a space where everyone feels like they can contribute to the future of AI.
Right. Whether you're a student who's just starting to explore AI or you're like a seasoned researcher with years of experience, the NAIRR is designed to give you the tools and the resources you need to,
To actually make a difference.
Exactly. And I think that's something that's been missing in the AI world for a long time, like this sense of shared purpose, this idea that we're all in this together.
Yeah, it's easy to feel like AI is this thing that's happening to us rather than something we're all actively shaping.
Right. And that's what I love about this whole NAIRR concept. It's about taking ownership of the future of AI, making sure it reflects a diversity of voices and perspectives.
So where do you see this going? Like if everything goes according to plan, what does the AI landscape look like in 5, 10 years?
Honestly, I think it's hard to even imagine the possibilities, but if the NAIRR is successful, I think we'll see a much more vibrant and dynamic AI ecosystem with people from all walks of life contributing to research and development.
And hopefully that leads to AI that's more aligned with our values,
Yeah.
AI that's used to solve real world problems and make a positive impact on the world.
Exactly. And I think that's something worth striving for. So if you're listening to this and you're feeling inspired, I encourage you to, check out the full report, see what resources are already available through that pilot program.
Yeah. Get involved, even if it's just in a small way, because every little bit counts.
Exactly. Because the future of AI isn't something that's just going to happen to us. It's something we're all creating together.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And on that note, I think we'll wrap up this deep dive. Thanks for joining us as we explored this fascinating and, frankly, really important topic.
It's been a pleasure. And remember, the future of AI is in our hands. Let's make it a good one.